السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين، وبعد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم ابسط علينا رحمتك وانشر علينا من حكمتك وافتح لنا فتوح العارفين، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. من رب العالمين. My dear respected brothers and sisters, welcome back, alhamdulillah, and to another class, which at the moment, inshallah ta'ala, as we've covered majority of the abwab al-tahara min al-ashmawiyah, bi'idhnillah al-kareem. As you know, this is a beginner's text. I wouldn't really indulge in so much information, as we have a lot of things which are not covered in the ashmawiyah. These are things which you don't have to learn alone. You can even teach your children at home. So if you are capable of doing that, that will be a win-win to whom? The both of you. However, many of the concepts that are taught, majority of the times, they are not new. Basically, you're already familiar with them and you know exactly when to use them and how. But the problem is that how do you differentiate one from the other? Which is why when we dedicate these classes, how many classes have you seen out there? Go to YouTube, you will see that there are classes on Abwab al-Tahara, especially in Salah. Go to Instagram, go to Facebook. There are classes dedicated, free classes actually. But what we are trying to do, not something that is unique, but to bring in the scholarly type of studying, which is why we have not only established this as a course on social media, but also where you can learn this on Mustafa's Academy, inshallah ta'ala, fi Ma'had al-Mustafa. You'll be able to see exactly this is how you learn. Basically, you learn the class itself, then you take a question, then you take in a homework, and the homework tests your understanding. Now, matters, for example, like what's the difference between a faridah and a sunnah and a fadilah? What's the difference between those three? For example, knowing the difference between what are the actions of the fara'id when it comes to tayammum, like we're going to cover today, and what's the difference between the fara'id and the sunan, and what's the difference between the sunan and the fada'il. So what category does each action fall into? It's important to know that, because let's say, for example, as we said earlier, in case if you, for example, you forget that it's salah time, and you, especially now in the UK, as you look at time at the moment, it's very difficult to keep a grasp of time, because we're used to praying Dhuhr, let's say it enters at 10 past 1, and then Asr is somewhere around 4 p.m. But now as we talk, while this is being recorded, you notice that Dhuhr is literally at 11:59 or maybe 11:50. Asr is literally just before 2 p.m. You're wondering, you're used to praying Dhuhr at 1 p.m. Immediately after that, in 50 minutes later, you have Salatul Asr coming in. Sometimes you forget that these salahs are so close to one another that you might even skip one without even realizing. Although when it comes to Salah, bi'idhnillah al-kareem, when we look into it, you notice that we're going to look into also the awqatul Salah, and when does a Salah end? The type of Salah, for example, Salatul Dhuhr, does it end when Asr enters immediately, or is there an extension of the Salah itself, inshaAllah ta'ala? So when you learn it this way, it saves you a lot of headache. So let's say you just remember the salah time and you only have 3 minutes. The only time that you have is, let's say, to go do wudu and at least catch a rak'ah in 1 minute of that time that you have. Then all you have to do is just the fara'id, وَلَيْسَتْ بِسُنَنْ وَلَا الْفَضَائِلِ. You don't have to do any of these other two. You can only do the fara'id and your salah becomes complete. But if you cannot differentiate between all of these three, you go through a trouble where now you think you've missed the salah, you can't make it up, or maybe you wouldn't make it for that salah, and khalas, is over. And for example, if you have a darura that you forgot, for example, to even do wudu, and you have only at least 2 minutes, and when you go to do wudu, you miss the salah, what do you do then? Is tayammum accepted for you? So that's why you need to know the differences of all of these things, inshallah ta'ala. However, I want you to bear in mind that قال المصنف رحمه الله, as we begin at the moment, رحمة الله عليه, شيخنا العشماوي, عبد الباري العشماوي, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. Many books are written on fiqh, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts tawfiq in certain texts. And one of the mutun that we have, especially in the Malikiya school, we have that for the beginner's text, Al-Ashmawiyya has a lot of barakah in it. If one studies Al-Ashmawiyya and finish it all, they have attained the barakah of the madhab itself and the ulama of the Malikiya, and also you have that the barakah of the Ahlul Madinah, because Imam Malik, he based his madhab a lot in the practices of the people of Medina, the Medinian practices. And you find that to be one of the most amazing and exclusive things about this madhab. That's what makes it to be one of the best of the madhahib that you find out there. Alhamdulillah. So, في باب التيمم, باب التيمم, وللتيمم فرائض وسنن وفضائل. Tayammum has fara'id and it has sunan and it has fadail. It has the obligations and it also has the what? It has the sunan, which are the recommended acts that you do of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he used to do it, and the fadail, which are the virtuous acts that one does. But ma huwa tayammum? Now you find in the text itself there is no definition provided, but we're going to look into one definition, pardon me. هي طهارة ترابية تشتمل على مسح الوجه واليدين. It is a type of purification that one seeks to do what? To put themselves in a state of wudu, basically to lift the barrier of hadith, so that one can be able to do what? To do salah, or maybe tawaf, or masul mushaf, touching the mushaf. And it is a type of tahara that it is fulfilled by turab, basically by earth. You can only fulfill it by earth. If we say by dust, that wouldn't be fair to the word turab. We have to say what? By earth, because we're using earth in itself. Now when we say earth, do we determine, for example, burnt bricks like that, burnt blocks, burnt stones? No. As we don't determine that, which means that these bricks which we use to build our homes, we don't accept them to be a part of that which you can use for what? For tayammum. So if you have a natural rock outside, or a stone, or a boulder, whatever it is, it's something that should be reasonable. Even if it's this small, you can use that to do what? To do tayammum. تشتمل على, it encompasses the following: مسح الوجه, the wiping of the face, واليدين, and the two hands. Now when you wipe the two hands, it depends on either to the wrists or to the elbows. But as we said, you need to know the differences between the fadail and the sunan and the fara'id. And we're going to cover those inshaAllah ta'ala over here. Now, فَأَمَّا فَرَائِضُهُ, وَالْمُصَنِّفُ رَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ يَسْتَمِرُ. He says that what? فَأَمَّا فَرَائِضُهُ, and about his fara'id, its obligations, فَأَرْبَعَةً. Remember, they are what? 4. And the dalil that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided us with in the Quran, you notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِن لَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ مِنْهُ. In another verse he says what? فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَفُوًّا غَفُورًا. But the first verse that we recited, what's amazing about it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ مِنْهُ, like that. ما يريد الله ليجعل عليكم في الدين من حرج. Now notice that. You notice that ليجعل عليكم من حرج. Now notice, what does that mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want to put a burden upon you. So if now it's impossible for one to do wudu because they don't have water, then they can reside towards what? They can go for tayammum. Now how do we do this tayammum? The tayammum, we do it with, first of all, the obligations, understanding them. وَأَوَّلُ فَرِيضَةٍ مِّن فَرَائِضِ التَّيَمُّمِ النِّيَّةُ. Shaykh al-Ashmawi rahimahullah, he says that the first one is what? An-niyyah, the intention. And we talked about the intention, and we have 7 parts. If they are fulfilled, these 7 things, 7 requirements of the intention, كما قال التتائي rahmatullahi alayh, you notice that they will be what? Niyyah will be complete. First of all, there should be qasd, and it should be the time period, and also the makan, and there are other things that we mentioned, subhanallah. But you notice that an-niyah is the first thing that we have to tackle. The second, before we even get there, you notice that Sheikh Naif al-Mubarak, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala رفعه الله درجات بعلمه آمين يا رب العالمين. You notice that he explains to us after Shaykh al-Ashmawi when he said وهي أن ينوي استباحة الصلاة لأن التيمم لا يرفع الحدث على المشهور, and that is to make the intention to make the salah halal. The word istibaha, we said طلب إباحة الشيء, and we explained this in our previous class. And over here when we say استباحة الصلاة is to make the salah permissible, okay, because we do not have a choice for that. We have to seek permission for the salah. لأن التيمم لأن أصل التيمم, because the what? The asl of tayammum لا يرفع الحدث. It does not lift the hadath that we are in. The state of impurity that we are in is not lifted على المشهور, according to the popular opinion of the madhab. وهو يقول, Sheikh Naif, he explains in his text, as he was giving a short translation, he says that بمعنى أن ينوي في تيممه, it means that one should do what? It has to make the intention while they're doing their tayammum, استباحة ما تيمم من أجله, to make permissible that the reason why he did that tayammum for, كالصلاة, like salah, أو الطواف أو طواف, أو مس المصحف, أو touching the mushaf, أو أن ينوي فرض التيمم عموما. Okay, or to make an intention of doing tayammum عموما. ومعنى أنه لا يرفع الحدث, and the meaning that it does not lift the hadath, أي أنه إذا وجد الماء, it means that if he finds water, توضأ أو اغتسل, he does wudu in a minor hadath, remember الحدث الأصغر, أو اغتسل للحدث الأكبر, or he takes a shower, ritual bath for the major hadath. وإذا تيمم, and after he has done this tayammum, pardon me, فإنه يصح له فعل صلاة واحدة فقط. He is only permitted to do only one فريضة from the فرائض, from the المفروضات من الصلوات الخمسة. Only one فريضة from all of those. ويتيمم للفرض الثاني, and he does the tayammum for the second type of salah. ولو كان قريبا, even if it's very close, like us over here. Let's say for example, you know that dhuhr time is 1 o'clock, asr is 2 o'clock, and you know that okay, I have to do tayammum for dhuhr at 1 o'clock and asr is at 2 o'clock. The distance is very short. By the time you finish your faridah of faridatul dhuhr, you notice that you only have around, let's say, 50 minutes, and you do your nawafil or rawatib min as-sunan. The next thing you find out is that you have 40 minutes left. Now, should you do another tayammum if you don't find water? Yes. for صلاة العصر ولو كان قريبا كالجمع بين الصلاتين, and even if it's very very close, like doing what? A jam', a combination of two salawat, like Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha, like that. ويصلي بعده ما شاء من النوافل, and he prays after that every type of salah extra, basically a nawafil, a nafila, that which he desires as much as he could, but don't go beyond the limits بإذن الله الكريم. Bear that in mind. لكن we have to mention also something really important. إذا تيمم شخص ونوى أن يصلي النفل بهذا التيمم, if a person makes the intention of doing the tayammum that he is or she is doing for the sake of a nafila من النوافل, does that tayammum cover for the actual salah of the faridah or the mafrudat of salawat of the five salawat? No, it doesn't. It does not. But if you make the intention directly that I do this for the faridah that I want to fulfill of the obligatory prayer, whether it's Salatul Maghrib or Isha, what happens is that one tayammum does cover for the rest of the nawafil, but it does not cover for the what? For all of the fara'id. Now هناك مسائل كثيرة. There are a lot of masail. If we are going to explain, it might take us at least 3 classes, and each class is around 45 minutes, because اعلم أن ابن عاشر, what does he say رحمة الله عليه? فصل لخوف ضر أو عدم ما عوض من الطهارة التيمم وصل فرضا واحدا وإن تصل جنازة وسنة به يحل وجاز للنفل ابتدا ويستبيح الفرض للجمعة حاضر صحيح فروضه مسحك وجها واليدين للكوع والنية أولى الضربتين ثم الموالاة صعيد طهورا ووصلها به ووقت حضر آخره للراجي آيس فقط أوله والمتردد الوسط. Now you notice all of that, we are only talking about the prerequisites and who is permitted to do tayammum, and then come to the fara'id of tayammum, and we haven't even yet read the sunanuha surah, sunanuha mashuhuma للمرفق للمرفق وضربة اليدين ترتيب بقي مندوبه تسمية وصف حميد ناقضه مثل الوضوء ويزيد. And then وجود ماء قبل إن صلى وإن بعد يجد يعد بوقت يكن كخائف اللص وراج قدم وزمن مناولا قد عدم. Now all of these, when does tayammum drop? Who is permitted to do tayammum? Who is regarded as a person that can do tayammum at the beginning of Salah, or in the middle of the prayer time as he entered, or maybe at the very end? That's when you are permitted to do. What's the distance for you to determine now I can do tayammum? For example, if you don't have water, if I have a little bit of water, all of those issues. We cannot cover everything because, as we said, we are still covering just the beginner text. We don't want to enter into all of these issues, inshallah ta'ala, for the moment. But what we're going to do is that we're going to look into the very basics and just mention some of the very few of what we have bi'idhnillah. And as you can see, by just mentioning all of this, how much time that we've took. So what we're going to do is, let's look into the other fara'id of tayammum. And the second one that you notice that Shaykh Abdul Bari al-Ashmawi rahmatullahi alayhi, what does he say? وَتَعْمِيمُ وَجْهِهِ وَيَدَيْهِ إِلَى كُوعَيْهِ وَتَعْمِيمُ وَجْهِهِ وَيَدَيْهِ إِلَى كُوعَيْهِ. What does that mean? It is to encompass his face, okay? While he does the tayammum, he makes sure that his face is covered all together. Amma is literally wider than khas. Khas is specific. To generalize and make sure that you do what? You go through all over your face. Where your face begins on the hairline, coming all the way to your ear side, these little earlobes, and then you come up to these are the earlobes, but these little parts of the ears, mainly we can call them ear studs, and then you come all the way down to your jawline like that. But remember, when you're doing wudu, you go through all over the cracks of the face. You see all of the marks that you have to do that with when you have water. But while you do tayammum, you're not really obliged to do that. You do it once, khalas. As long as you pass your hands through your face, that's done. As long as you cover your entire face. وَيَدَيْهِ إِلَى كُوعَيْهِ. Now the faridah is that you do up to your wrist. Al-ku' بِمَعْنَى هَذا. You see where there is a joint, we call it a ku'. This is what we call a ku'. Okay, it's a joint. Now the joint that's meant over here is the wrist. You do up to here. Okay. Now that, remember, it's a what? It's a faridah. The other one is وَالضَّرْبَةُ الْأُولَى, the first strike. Now as you strike the first time, let's say you strike a stone, which you know that this is directly from the earth, okay, or you strike the earth as in sand in itself, but we don't accept leaves, nor do we accept grass. We don't use those. We don't use any of those. We use things which come from the earth. Soil. We do use soil. We use rocks, as we said. And what do? You do the first strike, and that is your fariḍa min fara'idi at-tayammum. That's going to be the third one, وَالضَّرْبَةُ الْأُولَى, we said. And then he carries on by saying وَالصَّعِيدُ الطَّاهِرُ, which means that the earth has to be pure. You have to use pure earth. وَهُوَ كُلُّ مَا صَعَدَ عَلَى وَجْهِ الْأَرْضِ. Everything that is on top. The word sa'id, you notice that when you read in the seerah, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, once he received the message, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, and warn your very close family members. After that, when Allah gave him permission now to go jiharan, basically, to the entire Mecca, Mustafa, you notice that in the seerah on Al-Rahiq al-Makhtoom, or even more than that, you notice that what does he say? فَصَعِدَ عَلَى الصَّفَا. What does he do? He mounts on Mount Safa. And فَصَعَدَ عَلَى الْمِنْبَرِ. صَعَدَ عَلَى الْمِنْبَرِ. He also mounted the pulpit at the same time. Majority of the ahadith, you notice that the messenger says, the ahadith provide the word صَعَدَ. سأرهقه صعودا. Notice that. And over here we use as-sa'id al-tahir. Why do we use sa'id al-tahir? By saying that sa'id means earth. Anything that is on top of the earth is part of the earth. That's what it means. وَهُوَ, we said that, and that is كُلُّ مَا صَعَدَ عَلَى وَجْهِ الْأَرْضِ. Everything that is on top of the earth itself, مِن تُرَابٍ أَوْ رَمْلٍ, from the little grains of the earth, and turab in itself, which is the sand of the dust in itself, أو حجارة, or maybe stones, أو سبخة ونحو ذلك. Okay, now those are what? Those are the fara'id of tayammum. Now, as you've learnt about the fara'id, which means that you know that this is what I have to do. This is the bare minimum of tayammum. As long as I cover the fara'id of tayammum while I'm doing tayammum, my tayammum is complete. Okay, my tayammum is complete. But then there is the issue of perfection. You want to perfect your tayammum. If you want to perfect your tayammum, then you take it a step further. This is how you do it. وَأَمَّا سُنَنُهُ. All about his sunnah now. فَثَلَاثَةً. They are three. تَرْتِيبُ الْمَسْحِ. That is to follow the order, to have a sequence when it comes to the wiping. أيوة. والمسح من الكوع إلى المرفق. And to wipe from the core, okay, from the core all the way to the elbow, from the wrist to the what? To the elbow, which means if you are doing up to here for the faridah, then you go all the way up to the elbow. وتجديد الضربة لليدين. And to renew the strike while you're doing what? While you want to do your hands, which means that when you follow the order, you begin with your face, then you do what? Then you do your hands. That's what you do. And while you do your hands, you go all the way to the elbows. Now those are three, as we've mentioned, isn't it? لكن الفضائل mention something else. The virtues of tayammum mention also extra to seek that ultimate perfection of our what? Of our tayammum. وأما فضائله فثلاثة. The fadail, there are three أيضا. التسمية, number one, which is to say Bismillah at the very beginning. That's number one. وَالْبَدْءُ بِمَسْحِ ظَاهِرِ الْيُمْنَى بِالْيُسْرَى إِلَى الْمِرْفَقِ. And to begin to wipe over the very open manifest part of your body, which is this side of your body. This is the inside. Bear that in mind. While you're wiping your hands, bear that in mind. This is the very open. Inside here is the very inside. So what do? البدء بمسح ظاهر اليمنى. You start with the very beginning. You wipe with the right hand. You start with the very right hand and on the manifest side of your body, basically of your skin, and you wipe all the way to the mirfaq. ثم بالباطن إلى آخر الأصابع. Now that takes us to do what? To the end of number 2. Then you come from the elbows and then you go on the inside all the way to the end of your fingers. Like that. You go like this, basically. Like this, you wipe, and then you turn around. Okay, you go all the way down. As you can see my hands moving. And then وَمَسْحُ الْيُسْرَى مِثْلُ ذَلك. Number 3 is to do what? To wipe the left arm just like that. So basically you do the mayamin, thumma you do the yusra. You start with the yumna, then you go to the yusra. The right, then you go to the left. That's among the fadail. So what have you covered up to now? What you've covered is that you've covered the necessary parts of tayammum according to the beginner's text over here. But I'm just going to mention some things which, for example, to whom does tayammum apply? Remember this. فَصْلٌ لِخَوْفِ ضُرٍّ أَوْ عَدَمِ مَا. You only have 2 scenarios when you can do tayammum. Either one is that you fear harm. You fear a harm, basically can be maybe a medical harm, basically you have a medical issue, or maybe you fear that you might even lose your life. For example, the Sahaba that he was with a fellow Sahaba when he was in a state of janabah, and he had basically a major hadath, and he had to purify himself for Salah, and he was very cold at the time in Medina. What happened is that he told his fellow to do what? Do the do the ghusl. And what happened next? That costed his life. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he got really furious about that, and he kept on talking about it until the Sahaba wished laytahu sakat, wished that he'd at least I wish that he was able to just be calm about it after that. All right. Lakin you notice that masail fiqhiyya are very critical. We have to learn them and understand when to apply them. If one wants to worship Allah completely and righteously, they have to know the differences between halal and haram, that which is permitted and that which is not permitted. They have to know the differences between the things that they can do and the things that they have to avoid. يجب عليهم أن يعلموا يجب عليك أن تعلم الفرق بين المباح والمكروه والحلال والحرام والسنة والمندوب. You have to notice the difference between all of those. من الأعمال التي كلفها الله على العباد, from the deeds that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already done what? He has already obliged mankind to become responsible of and act upon. So one should be able to differentiate between all of these so that they can be able to know what's the right thing to do and what's the right thing to avoid at the same time. Now you notice that over here, the person, for example, who fears harm, in brief, that's what I'm going to say, or when you don't have water, when there is an absence of water, when there's an absence of H2O, then remember, when I say H2O, that is part of chemistry, you notice that is what? There is no, then you are left with the option of tayammum. Now, when we say a person that fears for their life or maybe a harm that they might go back to an illness, even if a person is at the very ocean, basically they're in a ship and they're literally traveling and they have water as they are in the ocean, but they know that this water is going to harm them and there is no other water, that person is exempt from wudu, but they have to do what? Tayammum at the same time. Number two of what we're going to mention, inshaAllah ta'ala, to conclude this class. When can you do tayammum? When can you do tayammum? As we said, there are three types of people. Akhiruhu lirraji. Number one is the person that can do tayammum at the very end, basically at the very end of time, nearly salah time is coming to an end, is a person that literally was optimistic and hoped to get water before the end of the prayer time, but then their hopes literally were broken knowing that there is no water anymore. Unfortunately, because there is no water, knowing that I'm left with 5 minutes to the end of salah, then I have to abide by the salah rather than missing the salah, and I have to do my tayammum and pursue the salah, proceed to the salah itself. لكن آيس فقط أوله, the person that literally has no hope from the very beginning, a paralyzed man, knowing that they can't really use water, or maybe they know that where they are they cannot really fetch water for themselves, or you're in a jungle where you know whatever I do over here, there is no hope of water at all, and where water is perhaps is beyond 2 miles, and I won't really get there I won't really be able to get there. فأنت آيس, you've lost hope, hopeless person. Then at the very beginning of salah you do your tayammum and you are your deed is accepted. لكن والمتردد الوسط, a person that is skeptical, they don't know whether they don't know whether is my wudu, am I going to get water, am I not going to get water. متردد يعني عنده تردد في قلبه وصدره وعقله. He has this skepticism, thinking, am I going to get water or not, and he's worried. Is it really, he has shak basically, am I going to get water or not? And by the time it's half the salah time passed, you're thinking there might not be any hope. So rather than clinging on my hopes, what shall I do? I would rather do what? I would rather do tayammum. Those are the type of people that can do tayammum according to these times. And there are many other more, inshaAllah ta'ala, but these will be exclusively provided in Mustafa's Academy, bi'idhnillahi al-karim. And in there, you will have questions that you shall be asked, which you require to answer them, to test your understanding and how much you've took out of this, bi'idhnillahi al-karim. I'll see you, inshaAllah ta'ala, in another lesson where immediately, according to the text that we have, the matn by Abdul Bari al-Ashmawi, rahmatullahi alayhi, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon him, that immediately we enter into Babus Salah. We enter into what? Babus Salah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.